Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something kind of unsettling today, but also fascinating. It's happening in Nepal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, major population shifts, people moving around inside the country, and even more folks leaving Nepal altogether.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's like this chain reaction, impacting everything, villages emptying out, the economy feeling the squeeze, the whole thing.
So what are we looking at today to understand all this?
Well, we've got this essay called Emptying Nepal. It's from the Observer Research Foundation.
Okay.
And then we've pulled some data about Nepal's birth rate. That's from Macro Trends.
Gotcha. So birth rates and people leaving the country.
Right, but it's not just people packing their bags and saying goodbye. We're also seeing birth rates going down, fewer babies being born.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then there's internal migration, people moving from rural areas to the cities within Nepal.
So a lot of moving pieces in this puzzle.
Totally, it's a whole bunch of moving pieces. One thing that really jumped out at me in emptying Nepal was how much Nepal's population growth has slowed down.
Okay, yeah, how much?
Well, in 2011, it was 1.34%. Fast forward to 2021, and it's down to 0.93%.
Wow.
Yeah, big difference in just 10 years.
Huge. Well, it's not just about how many babies are born, right?
Yeah.
It's how many people come in, how many leave.
Right.
When you look at the numbers, it's clear that people leaving, emigration, is a big part of why that growth has slowed down so much.
Makes sense.
Back in 94 and 95, only about 2,000 people left Nepal for work in other countries. But by 2022, 2023, that number went up to 750,000.
Whoa, 750,000. That's incredible.
Yeah, a huge jump.
It's almost like a mass exodus.
Yeah.
And this essay even mentions that it estimates about 3,000 young people are leaving Nepal every single day,
Wow.
looking for jobs in places like the Gulf countries,
Right.
Malaysia, Europe, all over.
Yeah. So the question is, why are so many people leaving? What's going on in Nepal that's pushing them out?
Exactly. Why are they leaving?
Well, the essay uses this phrase, dignified employment. And I think that really gets to the heart of it.
Dignified employment.
Yeah, it's not just about finding any old job. It's about finding work that makes you feel, valuable.
Yeah, I get it.
Work that pays a fair wage, you can support yourself, your family. Unfortunately, those kinds of opportunities are, they're just limited in Nepal.
So they're looking for a better life, a life where they can actually provide for their families, have some sense of dignity in the work they do.
Right, exactly. And the essay talks about how people are leaving those rural areas in huge numbers.
Yeah.
Uses this really powerful image. The settlers in the rural areas are vanishing, and vast portions of the settlements are turning into ghost villages or forests.
Ghost villages. Wow. It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
It's not just a statistic. It's actually happening. Communities all across Nepal are feeling this.
Definitely.
But it's not just people leaving the country altogether, right? It's people moving around within Nepal, too.
Absolutely. You see a lot of internal migration, people leaving rural areas, heading to urban centers like Kathmandu.
Makes sense.
It's a pretty common pattern, actually, all over the world.
Right.
People are drawn to those big cities, hoping for better education,
Okay.
better health care.
Jobs, opportunities.
Right, exactly.
Which brings us to the Terai region.
The Terai.
That borders India. It sounds like that area is seeing a population boom.
It is. The Terai has become this, magnet for people leaving those rural areas.
Interesting.
And think about this. The Terai only makes up about 23% of Nepal's land.
Okay.
Now, more than half of the population lives there.
Wow, that's a huge shift.
It is.
And it seems like this whole situation, all this movement, it's making a lot of people in Nepal anxious, uneasy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The essay quotes some everyday people, and you can really hear that anxiety in their words.
Yeah, give us an example.
There's Ganesh Karn. He's a taxi driver. He's worried that if all this keeps up, Nepal, as a country, might not even exist anymore.
Wow.
And then there's Suman Katka. He's a businessman.
Really?
And he says pretty much the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, he has serious doubts about the future of the country.
It sounds pretty dire.
It does. And it's not just everyday people who are concerned.
No.
Even the president of Nepal, Ramchandra Pudel, he's expressed alarm about all of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's even questioned why people are leaving the villages, despite efforts to bring, more development, better services to those areas.
Right.
And Emptying Nepal actually quotes him. He says that everything has reached those rural areas.
Everything.
Except for, you guessed it, good jobs.
Wow, so they're getting the roads, the infrastructure, maybe schools, hospitals.
Right.
But that one crucial thing, the thing that would actually let them stay and make a good living, decent paying jobs, That's missing.
Exactly, and that gets to the core of why people are leaving. They need work that lets them live with dignity, support their families, and that's just often not available in those rural parts of Nepal.
So it's this impossible choice, almost. Stay in their communities but struggle to make ends meet. Or leave their families, their homes, everything they know, and go somewhere else looking for better opportunities.
It is. It's heartbreaking. And, this isn't just about the emotional toll.
Right.
There are very real consequences for Nepal, tangible consequences.
Like what?
Well, think about education, for example.
Oh, yeah. The essay mentioned something about schools closing, didn't it?
Yeah, in some areas, there simply aren't enough students to keep the schools open.
Wow.
Take the Karnali province. It's one of the most remote areas of Nepal.
Okay.
Over 30% of the public schools there are having a really tough time staying open because there just aren't enough kids.
30%, that's a huge number of schools.
It is.
And it's a whole generation that could grow up without access to education.
Exactly. What does that mean for the future of a country?
A bleak future, honestly.
Yeah, it's really tough. And the ironic thing is the government is spending a big chunk of its budget on education.
Okay.
But a lot of that money is just going to pay teacher salaries, even when there's nobody to teach.
It's like a vicious cycle, right? People leave because there aren't enough opportunities.
All right.
Schools close down, and then these communities become even more disadvantaged.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there.
No.
It's not just education. This decline in population, it has this ripple effect, touches almost everything in Nepal. Take the dairy industry, for example.
Oh, yeah. The dairy farmers are having a really tough time, right?
They are. Emptying Nepal talks about how these dairy companies, the state-owned Dairy Development Corporation,
Okay.
and all these private dairy firms, they owe billions of rupees to farmers.
Wow. Billions.
Billions. But they're having a hard time paying up because demand for milk has just plummeted.
I can see why. Fewer people means fewer mouths to feed.
Exactly. Classic supply and demand.
So the farmers are in this impossible situation. They're producing all this milk,
Yeah.
but they can't sell it.
Right.
They're not getting paid what they're owed.
It's tough.
It's no wonder so many of them are resorting to, they're pouring milk down the drain.
Yeah. Powerful image, right?
Really powerful.
It shows you the difficult choices people are facing.
Yeah, and the essay pointed out that it's not just dairy farmers, it's restaurants too, fewer customers coming in. Even petroleum imports have gone down because there are fewer people driving, traveling.
Right. So this isn't just a rural problem.
It's affecting the whole country.
A whole country.
It's this domino effect hitting the entire Nepali economy.
It is, exactly. This depopulation, it's cascading, affecting everything, agriculture, transportation, everything.
Right. But there is one economic bright spot.
Right, you mean remittances.
Yeah, the money that those Nepali workers are sending back home to their families.
Right, remittances.
The essay says Nepal got something like $9.33 billion in remittances in 2022-2023.
Wow.
That's almost a quarter of their GDP.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of money flowing into the economy.
So that's a good thing, right? It's a lifeline for families and it's boosting the economy.
Well, to a point, yeah. But we have to look a little deeper.
Okay.
Yeah, remittances do provide a significant boost, but they're mostly used for consumption.
Meaning?
It means the money is mostly used for the basics: food, clothes, necessities.
Okay.
It's not being used for investments that could actually create jobs in Nepal, develop new industries, promote real, sustainable growth within the country itself.
I see. So it's helping families get by in the short term.
Yeah.
But it's not really solving the root cause of the problem, the lack of opportunity within Nepal itself.
Exactly.
It's like, what's the expression? Putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a long-term solution.
So this raises a huge question. Can a nation really thrive when its people, its most valuable resource, are leaving in such large numbers?
That's the million-dollar question.
And it's a question we'll keep digging into as we explore this whole situation even further. We'll be back in a moment to talk about the potential consequences of all this and what, if anything, can be done to change course. It's like all that talent, all that energy is just flowing out of the country.
Yeah, like a brain drain.
Right, a brain drain. And the essay talks about some pretty serious risks if this keeps up. Nepal could just become a source of cheap labor for other countries.
Exactly, and never develop their own economy, their own strengths.
Right. So instead of using their skills to build up their own country,
Right.
they're contributing to the economies of other places.
Exactly.
Doesn't seem very fair when you put it that way.
No, not really. It kind of highlights the inequalities that are baked into this whole global system.
Yeah.
And it creates this vicious cycle.
Oh, how so?
Well, the more people who leave to find work somewhere else,
Right.
the fewer resources there are, less incentive to invest in industries within Nepal.
Which just means fewer jobs back home.
Right.
So even more people end up leaving.
Exactly.
It's a pattern we see in a lot of developing countries.
It is, unfortunately.
No.
But it's important to remember, this isn't just like an economic problem.
Right.
This has social and cultural consequences too.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine, families, communities, when so many young people leave.
Yeah.
It disrupts those traditional social structures.
Yeah.
Could lead to, a sense of cultural loss.
Yeah.
Even a feeling of hopelessness.
And you see that reflected in the essay, right?
Absolutely.
That sense of unease, that uncertainty about the future.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see the statistics, the numbers about population decline,
Right.
but it's totally different to actually hear from the people who are living through this.
Like those folks we talked about earlier, the taxi driver,
Right.
the businessman, the shopkeeper,
Yeah.
even the president himself.
Exactly. Those personal stories really bring this issue to life.
Yeah, they remind us that we're not just talking about numbers on a page. We're talking about real people, their lives, their families, their dreams.
It's not some abstract problem.
No.
It's real people's lives being affected in very real ways.
So where does Nepal go from here? What are the solutions? Is there any way to turn the situation around?
Well, there's always hope.
Okay, good.
But it's going to take a real shift in thinking.
In what way?
The essay argues that Nepal needs to move away from relying on remittances so much
Okay.
and focus on building a more self-reliant economy.
So instead of depending on that money sent back from people working abroad,
Exactly.
they need to create opportunities that will keep people in Nepal.
Exactly.
But how do you actually do that?
By making strategic investments in sectors that can really generate jobs and build a stronger economy.
Which sectors are we talking about?
The essay specifically points to agriculture, quality education, healthcare, skill development, tourism, energy.
So investing in their own people.
Right.
Giving them the skills and the resources to build a better future for themselves.
Exactly.
And for Nepal as a whole.
It's about empowering people.
Yeah, I like that.
Take agriculture, for example.
Okay.
Nepal has a long history of farming,
Right.
but it needs to be modernized, get some support.
So invest in agriculture.
Right. Create jobs, improve food security, reduce their reliance on imports.
Makes sense. And what about education? I mean, can't really have a strong economy without an educated workforce, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's about equipping young people with the skills they need
Yeah.
to compete in the global economy. But it's also about, fostering critical thinking,
Right.
innovation, a sense of responsibility, civic responsibility.
And we can't forget about healthcare either.
Oh, of course not.
A healthy population is a productive population.
Exactly. Invest in healthcare, you're investing in the future of the country.
Makes sense. And when you have a strong healthcare system,
Yeah.
it attracts skilled professionals who might not otherwise want to live in a country with limited healthcare.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
So it's a multi-pronged approach tackling multiple areas at once. But is it realistic? I mean, can Nepal actually pull this off?
It's definitely a challenge, no question.
Right.
But, it takes strong leadership,
Yeah.
effective governance, and a real long-term commitment to sustainable development.
Right. Not just a quick fix.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And it requires everyone working together.
Oh, in what way?
Well, the government, private sector, civil society, international organizations, everybody.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
Yeah.
It's about creating a system where everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. A shared vision for the future.
Right. Working toward the same goal.
Yeah, because the alternative, well, it's not pretty.
The essay kind of hints at that, right?
Mhm.
What are the potential downsides here if things stay the same?
Yeah, if they don't address these issues,
Yeah.
we could see villages completely abandoned.
Wow.
Schools shutting down, the whole nation becoming more and more dependent on other countries for their economic survival.
That's a bleak picture.
Yeah, it is. And it reminds us, these economic problems,
Yeah.
they often come hand in hand with social and cultural problems.
Right. You can't really separate them.
You can't. It's about the well-being of the nation, its people,
Right.
their sense of identity, their hope for the future.
And it challenges, our whole idea of what it means to be a nation in this globalized world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where borders are less important than they used to be.
Definitely.
People are moving around more than ever.
It's a whole new world.
Raises some tough questions.
Like what?
Well, like, what are the responsibilities of the countries that are sending people
Right.
and the countries that are receiving them?
Exactly.
How can we make sure that everyone benefits from globalization,
Yeah.
not just a select few?
That's the big question. And it's not just about Nepal. These are issues that a lot of countries are dealing with.
So maybe there are some lessons we can learn from Nepal's experience
I think
that can be applied elsewhere.
definitely. For instance, they're putting a lot of emphasis on building a self-reliant economy,
Okay.
one that focuses on domestic job creation,
Right.
investing in key sectors like agriculture, education.
Right.
That's a model that other countries could learn from.
It's about empowering people to create their own futures.
Exactly. Not
Yep.
relying on outside forces.
Right.
And recognizing that economic development isn't just about GDP.
Right.
It's about creating a society where people can live with dignity, purpose.
It's a more holistic approach,
Absolutely.
one that looks at both the economic and the human side of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not going to be easy.
No. It takes vision, commitment, collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Nepal can turn things around.
Okay, you're optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic, I'd say.
Right.
I mean, they have a rich culture,
Yeah.
resilient people,
Great.
beautiful natural environment.
So much potential. So I'm curious to hear your final thoughts here. Do you think Nepal can actually break free from this cycle of depopulation?
Yeah.
Create a more sustainable future?
Mhm.
Or are they going to become, like the essay suggests, mainly a source of cheap labor for other countries?
It really is the big question, isn't it?
Oh.
Can they create a future where their people can thrive, stay in Nepal?
Yeah, a future within their own borders.
Now, there aren't easy answers, but like we've been talking about, Nepal does have some strengths to work with. They've made some progress, in education,
Right.
healthcare,
Yeah.
and more people are recognizing that they need to change things up with their economy.
Right, move away from that reliance on remittances.
Exactly.
So it sounds like there are some, I don't know, some glimmers of hope here, some positive signs.
Definitely, there are. There are people, organizations in Nepal working really hard to create opportunities,
Yeah.
empower those communities. We can't forget about that.
Right, it's not just about the government.
No, not at all. It's about those grassroots efforts, too, finding solutions at the local level.
And maybe this situation, tough as it is, could actually be like a catalyst for positive change.
Oh, I like that.
Force them to rethink things,
Absolutely. Crisis and innovation often go together.
Right.
And Nepal has this chance to do something really new, something different, something that puts their people first and plays to their strengths. What if they could take all that knowledge, all those skills from the people who have gone abroad,
Right.
create an environment where those folks could actually come back?
Right, contribute to their own country.
Exactly. A brain gain instead of brain drain.
I love that. But let's be real, this is a huge challenge.
Well, for sure. No guarantees of success.
Yeah.
But I am cautiously optimistic.
Okay, good.
Nepal's got a history of resilience.
Right.
They've faced all kinds of things, natural disasters, political upheaval,
Right.
economic hardship. They've always found a way to rebuild.
Right.
They adapt.
It's like they're constantly searching for that balance between being part of this globalized world and being self-reliant.
Exactly. And a lot of countries are trying to figure that out, aren't they?
They are. Those forces of globalization are powerful.
They are.
It's not about ignoring them. It's about figuring out how they can work for you.
Exactly.
How they can benefit your people.
Right.
Your economy.
It's about being a participant, not just being swept along.
I like that. And maybe, just maybe, Nepal shows us what's possible.
Yeah.
Other countries can learn from what they're going through.
Absolutely. Nepal's story really highlights how important it is to invest in your people.
Yeah.
Make your economy more diverse. Build a sense of national unity, a sense of purpose.
Right.
It reminds us that economic development isn't just about the numbers.
Yeah.
It's about creating a society where people can actually live a good life, a life with dignity.
A fulfilling life. So as we wrap up this deep dive, this look into emptying Nepal, what's the key message you want to leave with our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is just how connected we all are. What happens in Nepal, it matters to all of us. It's like this, microcosm of all the challenges and all the opportunities that come with this globalized world. And it really shows how important it is for us to work together.
Collaborate.
To create a world that's more just,
Yeah.
more sustainable for everyone.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
Yeah.
Given you some things to think about. Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep asking those questions.
And keep learning.